Hi, my name is Roberta, and we are going to make chicken enchiladas with a tomatillo salsa. When you're making enchiladas, you can definitely use canned enchilada sauce. This sauce I like because it's very fresh, and I like to make my own, but like I said before, you can also buy a can of enchilada sauce, whether green, which would be with the tomatillos, or red enchilada sauce, right in the Mexican or international food aisle. Now, these tomatillos are sometimes called green husk tomatoes. They're a native of Mexico, and you can get them in a regular grocery store. They come with this papery husk on the outside, which you want to remove, and you want to rinse them after you remove them. Now, these tomatillos are more acidic and less sweet than a regular tomato. So even though they look like green tomatoes, they are not, and they're the middle is more dense than tomato. So to make the sauce, we're going to add the tomatillos to a pot, along with one jalapeno. If you want to make the jalapeno less spicy, you can remove the seeds. The seeds are the spiciest part of most chili peppers. So we'll make this a little less spicy, and we'll just remove the seeds of 1/2. And then we'll put that also in a pot with some water. Now, this recipe calls for 9 tomatillos, 1/2 of a white onion, and a jalapeno. And like I said, you can actually, this jalapeno, you can use 1/2 of it if you don't want it so spicy. You can leave it out if you don't want it spicy at all. I'm actually 1.5ing this recipe because I'm making it for my family and my boys. 3 of my 4 boys are home, so I need to make a lot of this so that they'll hopefully have enough to eat plus a little leftovers, because nowadays you really need to have leftovers with everybody home. So this is a little more than 1/2 of an onion in here, and we're just going to cook this over medium-high heat. We're going to cover it and boil it until these tomatillos kind of turn an olive green color. These are kind of a bright green, and they'll turn olive green. So we'll cook them for about 10 minutes. And while those are cooking, we're going to make some guacamole. In my guacamole, I like to add onion, cilantro, lime juice, and salt and pepper. So it's a pretty simple recipe. And actually, I don't use a recipe, but the ingredients are simple. You would probably use about, for 3 avocados, I would use about a 1/4 cup of chopped onion. Now you can use more onion, less onion. That's the nice thing about guacamole. It's to taste, however you like it. So, and the best way, these have all been washed, but I'm going to rinse them again. The best way to get the pit out of an avocado is you go around the outside, twist it like this, and take your knife and take it out like that. Now, the best way to cut an avocado is you slice it while it's still in the skin, crossways, and then like a patchwork. It's spoon here. And we just scoop out. So once the avocados are chopped up, we're going to add the onions that we chopped up. And we're also going to add some cilantro. I would add, you know, again, cilantro is another thing that you add to taste. And some people love it and some people say it tastes like soap. And those people who say it tastes like soap, they're not lying. They actually have a gene that makes them taste like, when they eat it, it tastes like soap to them. So when they tell you they don't like it because it tastes like soap, it's the truth. So we've got, in here we've got the onion, the avocados, and cilantro, and we've got a lime here. And the best way to get the most juice out of your lime is to roll it first. We're gonna cut it. And this is another thing that's to taste. I would squeeze at least half a lime if you're gonna use 3 avocados. That juice out. If you really like a lot of lime, put the other half in, but taste it first. Okay, so here we've got the avocado, the onions, the cilantro, and the last thing we're going to add is salt. So I would add about half a teaspoon of salt. And then you can mix it up and then taste it. Like I said, no recipe, it's all to taste. If you like things saltier, you might add a little more salt. I have this feeling I'm gonna want more salt. Definitely. So like I said, salt to taste. Okay, now our guacamole is done. I like to cover it with plastic wrap so that it doesn't get, I actually think it needs a little more lime. The lime helps it from turning brown because, as you all know, avocados love to oxidize and turn brown. So let's get a little more lime in there. Okay. So we're going to cover this with plastic wrap. And set it aside. Tomatillos and the onions have cooked. I don't know if you can see it. So that, let me show you one of those tomatillos. It looks more like avocado colored. It's a pale green. So we're gonna put this in this mixer here. Can you see it? I need a big spoon. So it's hot. We're gonna put this in our blender. Maybe I can, let's see. There we go. Okay. Into that, we're gonna add it would be a half a cup of cilantro, but I'm adding probably 3/4 of a cup because I'm 1.5ing the recipe. And 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm doing 3 because I'm making more of the recipe. The best way to get the paper off these cloves of garlic is You smash them with your knife. Just like that, toss it in. You don't have to cut it up. Some people like to take that little bit of woody part off of the piece of garlic. Doesn't matter because we're blending this all up. And we'll just turn it on and get it going. We've got our Tomatillo salsa. I wonder if you can see this. Okay, so we'll set this aside and we're going to, and obviously if you use canned enchilada sauce, you've taken a lot of your work out from you. We're going to cook these. We've got corn tortillas. So corn tortillas are traditionally used in enchiladas, and we're going to actually make this easier than you can roll up each individual one, but we're going to layer this. It's almost like an enchilada casserole, less work. We've got a 1/4 cup of oil heating up and over about medium-high heat. And we're going to cook them about 10 seconds per side. They're going to be pliable, but still kind of turning a little bit golden. I'm going to put a couple in at a time. Okay, now that we've gotten all these tortillas fried, we're going to assemble the enchiladas. And we're going to pour on the bottom a small amount, I would say about a 1/2 cup of the tomatillo sauce. And spread that around on the bottom, like that. And then we're going to layer the tortillas. We're going to put 8 in this pan because as I mentioned, I increased the amount. So normally I would probably put 6 in a 9x13 pan. This is a 15x10 pan. So I've got 8 layered, overlapping, and we're going to put in, the recipe calls for 1.5 cups about of cooked chicken. So you can just take this from a rotisserie chicken, about 2 chicken breasts from the rotisserie chicken makes about 1.5 cups. So we're taking, it's about, I would say 1.5 cups, so total amount is about 1.5 cups of Jack cheese, shredded Monterey Jack cheese. If you don't have Monterey Jack cheese, you can use cheddar cheese too. Monterey Jack cheese is just what I usually use in Mexican food. Also, if you don't have chicken, you can use leftover pork, you could use leftover beef, whatever kind of meat you have, or if you want to make it meatless and you want to use firm tofu, you could do that too. I've made this with pork, and it's delicious. So we put in about 1.5 cups of shredded cheese, and now we're going to layer the tortillas again over them. Okay, and now we're going to pour the rest of the sauce over the top of tortillas. Now, you know, the jalapeno, I know I mentioned this before. If you don't want it spicy, you can leave the jalapeno out. One thing to remember is if you take the seeds out of the jalapeno, like I did, and you test your guacamole, probably don't use the same spoon to test the guacamole. I did, and I was wondering why my guacamole was so spicy. Anyway, just a thought. Also, you want to make sure to wash your hands after you de-seed the jalapeno, and do not touch your eyes. Your eyes will sting for a long time. So we're gonna also, when we poured the sauce over the top, we're gonna spread about a half a cup of sour cream. I usually just put dollops all over this. And then now you can use more cheese or less cheese on the inside, however you like. If you like a lot of cheese, put a lot more cheese in. If you're cutting back on cheese, or if you don't have that much in your refrigerator, you don't have to put it in. I just like to, it adds good flavor, and my kids like it. So on top, we're going to put in another, probably, it's I'll give you the measurements later, but the total amount is, as I mentioned, is a cup and a half. So I would say this is about a half a cup that I'm sprinkling over the top. And it's just for a nice topping. So that just went into the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes until you have some brown spots that showed that the cheese had melted and it's bubbling. So, you know, it may be less than that. And once you take it out, I'll show you what it looks like, but you just cut it into portions. Unlike if you had individual tortillas wrapped up, you would serve each individual tortilla. Here's the finished product. And we'll cut into it and serve it with a side of guacamole. You should serve it immediately. It bakes in the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. And you'll see a little browning on the top is good. Everything is cooked, so you just have to heat it through. So 30 minutes should do it. So here it is with a side of guacamole. And you have a complete dinner. Thanks for joining me in this first cooking class online.